In December 2023, a single 90-second video broke the internet. The trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 completely shattered YouTube records, racking up over 90 million views in just 24 hours. It wasn't just a game announcement, it was a global cultural event. Today, Rockstar Games is the undisputed king of the entertainment industry. Their previous masterpiece, GTA 5, is the most financially successful media product of all time, generating over $8 billion in revenue. To put that into perspective, that is more money than any movie, any album, or any book ever created in the history of human civilization. But how did they get here? If you rewind the clock, this empire wasn't built on a brilliant, carefully calculated corporate business plan. It was built on a glitch. It was built on lawsuits, massive political outrage, and a profound understanding of human rebellion. Rockstar didn't just break the rules of the video game industry, they fundamentally rewrote them. They intentionally weaponized public hatred, turning the outrage of United States senators into the greatest free marketing campaign the world has ever seen. They absolutely crushed any rival studio that dared to copy their formula, and ultimately created a digital economy that prints millions of dollars every single day. However, the very machine that made them untouchable has now become a golden trap. The visionary founders who built the company have quietly left. The internal culture has drastically changed, and the pressure from Wall Street investors is reaching a boiling point. The stakes for GTA 6 are impossibly high. If they fail to deliver perfection, it won't just hurt the company, it could collapse a multi-billion-dollar empire. This is the story of the most dangerous, controversial, and brilliant company in entertainment. This is the origin of Rockstar Games. Before we unlock Chapter 1, take 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button. It directly supports these deep dive investigations and keeps this channel alive. Now let's dive in. To understand Rockstar Games, you have to look at its creators. Ironically, the ultimate American crime simulator was built by two British brothers who grew up in extreme luxury. Sam and Dan Houser were born in London into a wealthy elite family. Their father, Walter Houser, was a prominent entertainment lawyer who also managed Ronnie Scott's, one of the most legendary jazz clubs in London. Their mother, Geraldine Moffat, was a famous actress. She starred in dozens of projects throughout her career, but her greatest triumph was the cult 1971 gangster film Get Carter, where she shined on screen alongside Michael Caine. An atmosphere of stylish crime surrounded the brothers from birth. The brothers received a prestigious education, but they hated the boring corporate lifestyle. Instead, they became utterly obsessed with pop culture. From early childhood, Sam and Dan spent hours watching American crime thrillers and gritty spaghetti westerns. This wasn't just entertainment, it was the blueprint for their future. They wanted to create interactive movies, desperately looking for a way to bring this dark American fantasy to life. In 1990, Sam landed a job at BMG Entertainment, at the time one of the most powerful music corporations in the world, controlling the global pop and rock scene. But Sam didn't just walk in off the street. His father, acting as a lawyer for BMG, pulled the right strings and got his son into the company. However, despite his father's connections, Sam was forced to start at the very bottom, sorting letters in the mailroom. Thanks to his relentless energy, he climbed the corporate ladder at lightning speed, eventually directing music videos for massive pop groups like the Spice Girls. But the true turning point came during a fateful business lunch. Sam's father, Walter, set up a meeting for him with one of the top bosses at BMG. At this lunch, Sam pitched his radical vision for pop culture and video games so passionately and boldly that the executive saw pure genius in this arrogant kid. By 1996, Sam was named head of development for their new experimental gaming division, BMG Interactive. His mission was to find the next big hit. One day, a rejected demo landed on his desk. It was a game called Race and Chase from a small Scottish studio called DMA Design. Other publishers thought the demo was ugly and ignored it, but Sam instantly saw the potential in its chaotic car-stealing mechanics. His obsession led him all the way from London straight to their cramped developer office in Dundee, Scotland. Originally, it was a top-down driving simulator where you played as a cop. It was safe, predictable, and completely boring. But during a late-night coding session, a massive coding error completely broke the game. The virtual cops went absolutely insane, hunting the player down like Terminators and causing massive explosions. When Sam Houser saw this broken mess, he didn't see a glitch. He saw a masterpiece. They scrapped the rules, made the player the criminal, and birthed a monster. Grand Theft Auto was born. Sam had his monster, GTA, but he desperately needed someone who understood American pop culture, movies, and music just as well as he did. Back in London, while working at BMG Interactive, he brought in his younger brother, Dan Houser, a fresh Oxford graduate. Dan started as a part-time temp, testing the game and writing dialogue sketches, but quickly became a core part of the team, injecting the first Grand Theft Auto with its signature cynical humor and gritty criminal flavor. Their duo became the ultimate machine. Sam was the face, the businessman, and the marketer, while Dan was the creative soul whose words would later change the world. But as they were finishing the game, a massive problem arose. The first Grand Theft Auto was incredibly ugly. The graphics were terrible, and gaming magazines were ready to completely destroy it. And that's when Sam made a diabolical move. He didn't hire a traditional marketing team. He hired Max Clifford, the most ruthless PR guru in Britain. Clifford's strategy was pure evil genius. He didn't promote the game. Instead, he intentionally provoked politicians, planted fake outrage in the media, and fueled public anger. When United States senators went on television demanding the game be banned, it created the greatest free advertising campaign in history. Teenagers didn't just want to play it, they needed to play it because adults hated it. The PR stunt worked flawlessly. GTA became a massive commercial phenomenon, selling over 3 million copies worldwide. But just as the game exploded, a corporate nightmare hit. BMG's parent company, the conservative German media giant Bertelsmann, decided to completely liquidate BMG Interactive. The new head of Bertelsmann, Thomas Middelhoff, was deeply annoyed by the political scandals surrounding GTA and saw video games as a worthless, risky distraction from their core music business. For Sam, this was a total catastrophe. Sam worked relentlessly, frantically searching for a buyer to save his team and his game. That's when 24-year-old Ryan Brandt, the ambitious founder of Take-Two Interactive, stepped onto the scene. Unlike the conservative German executives, Brandt saw absolute genius in the scandal. Take-Two purchased BMG Interactive's assets for $14.2 million, a deal that would change history forever. During negotiations with Brandt, Sam convinced him not just to buy the rights to GTA, but to move their entire core team to New York and give them complete creative autonomy. In December 1998, the brothers opened their office in Soho, in the very heart of New York City. New York, with its gritty streets, hip-hop culture, neon-lit Times Square, and the dark legacy of gangster syndicates, perfectly matched their inner spirit and the raw aesthetic of their future games. It was right there, in this concrete jungle, that a brand new label was officially born: Rockstar Games. In October 1999, Grand Theft Auto 2 was released on the first PlayStation and PC. The game kept the classic top-down view, but grew darker, throwing players into a cyberpunk gang war between the Yakuza and the Russian mob. It made good money, but the Houser brothers clearly understood. The 2D format was completely dead. It was time to move on. To spark a revolution, Sam Houser needed absolute, limitless control over the process. Just 1 month after the sequel's release, Sam convinced Take-Two leadership to make a massive strategic move, completely buying out the Scottish studio DMA Design, the creators of the original game. Now the developers were officially under the Housers' command. In early 2000, the brothers became obsessed with a crazy idea, bringing Grand Theft Auto into full 3D. They knew building such a massive living world would require unprecedented power. The Housers decided to turn Rockstar into a global machine, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To push production to the absolute maximum, they aggressively bought up third-party studios worldwide, transforming Canada's Barking Dog Studios into Rockstar Vancouver. When developers in one time zone went to sleep, another team was just sitting down to code. The work never stopped. But they needed a powerful platform. They approached the ambitious newcomers to the market, Microsoft, who were preparing to launch their first Xbox. Rockstar offered them GTA 3 as an exclusive, but Microsoft's bosses made the biggest mistake in their corporate history. The board of directors rejected the pitch. They thought the project was too complex, scoffed at the modest sales of the first two games, and completely failed to understand the open-world concept. Xbox executives called the idea half-baked and not worth the investment. Rejected, Sam Houser went straight to their rivals at Sony. The Japanese executives instantly grasped the massive rebellious potential. They signed a deal, provided huge marketing, and made GTA 3 a timed exclusive for their new PlayStation 2. Development entered its final stretch, with the release set for fall 2001. The game was set in Liberty City, a metropolis heavily inspired by New York. But on September 11, 2001, a horrific tragedy struck Manhattan. Rockstar's office was in Soho, just a few miles from the Twin Towers. The city plunged into chaos and mourning. Against the backdrop of a real catastrophe, a game revolving around explosions, crime, and shooting cops in a New York-style setting suddenly felt brutally inappropriate. The Houser brothers made a difficult but urgent decision: delay the release. In an atmosphere of extreme stress and strict secrecy, the team manually censored the game. They cut out a terrorist character named Darkle, removed terrorism-related missions, altered the flight paths of airplanes so they wouldn't fly near skyscrapers, and hastily repainted the police cars, which looked too much like actual NYPD cruisers. They even had to redesign the game's cover art from scratch, which birthed Rockstar's signature comic book panel style. Finally, on October 22, 2001, overcoming delays, censorship, and industry skepticism, Grand Theft Auto 3 launched on the PlayStation 2. It wasn't just a success, it was a tectonic shift. For the first time, players were given absolute freedom in a living, breathing 3D city, complete with its own radio stations, pedestrians, and an unforgettable atmosphere. The game instantly became the biggest bestseller of the year, sparking a cultural revolution that forever divided the gaming industry into before and after, and transforming Rockstar Games into the most powerful and influential studio on the planet. Seeing Rockstar single-handedly snatch billions of dollars from the market after the release of GTA 3, other gaming giants panicked. The era of GTA clones began. Everyone tried to copy the Housers' formula. Activision released True Crime, THQ prepared Saints Row about gang warfare, and the legendary racing series Driver desperately tried to add shooting and on-foot mechanics into Drive 3. But competitors simply couldn't create a game on the level of GTA. The Houser brothers cynically crushed their rival by adding a loser character named Tanner into their own games, a guy with a terrible running animation whom the player had to kill. No matter how much other studios tried to copy the mechanics, they drastically lacked the most important thing: Rockstar's rock and roll rebellion and fine sense of style. All these projects remained mere shadows of the original. Realizing that competitors were breathing down their necks, Rockstar achieved the impossible. Instead of resting on their laurels for years, the Houser brothers cranked production up to maximum capacity. Just 1 year later, in October 2002, GTA Vice City was released. It was a crushing cultural shock. Sam and Dan Houser transported players to the sun-drenched, neon-lit Miami of the 1980s. They managed to recreate the flawless, dense atmosphere of the era. Endless beaches, pink sunsets, expensive sports cars, cocaine barons, and Hawaiian shirts. The city literally breathed the style of the cult movie Scarface and the TV show Miami Vice. Wringing million-dollar budgets out of Take-Two's management, Sam personally bought the rights to iconic tracks by Michael Jackson, Ozzy Osbourne, and synthwave hits, creating the greatest video game soundtrack in history. Meanwhile, Dan wrote a bold script, bringing in major Hollywood stars for voice acting. The main character, Tommy Vercetti, was voiced by Goodfellas star Ray Liotta, while legends like Burt Reynolds and Dennis Hopper shined in supporting roles. The game shattered its predecessor's records in its very first days, firmly cementing Rockstar's status as the ultimate trendsetters. Riding the wave of this incredible triumph, in November 2002, Sam Houser took another massive step in expanding his gaming empire. For $28 million, Rockstar bought the California-based Angel Studios, transforming it into Rockstar San Diego. Sam desperately needed their cutting-edge vehicle and open-world simulation technology. This would later serve as the foundation for the company's main secret engine, Rage. Furthermore, along with the studio, Houser acquired the abandoned project Red Dead Revolver, which had been co-developed with Capcom and was on the verge of cancellation. Sam recognized its potential just in time, seized the rights, and began turning the game into a brutal western, completely unaware that he was saving a future legendary franchise. But the true peak of this golden era arrived in 2004 with the release of GTA San Andreas. Saying goodbye to neon lights and yachts, the Houser brothers utilized the power of all their newly acquired studios to surpass themselves. Instead of a single city, they recreated an entire state with 3 massive metropolises, endless highways, forests, and deserts. Players plunged headfirst into the gritty West Coast street culture of the early 90s, complete with gang wars, lowriders, and gangster rap. Sam Houser once again spared no expense on music, buying the rights to tracks by Tupac Shakur, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E. And the game itself pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The main character, CJ, could work out at the gym, get fat from fast food, get tattoos, and take over enemy gang territories. Dan Houser's storyline, inspired by the movie Boys in the Hood and the real-life Los Angeles riots, featured Samuel L. Jackson voicing the ruthless, corrupt cop, Officer Tenpenny. The game became the best-selling PlayStation 2 title in history. Rockstar was indisputably on top of the world. But the greater the triumph, the fiercer the hatred. Just as the Houser brothers felt invincible, a deadly real-life antagonist emerged. Controversial Florida attorney Jack Thompson. In 2003, he declared a personal vendetta against Rockstar. On national television, Thompson branded GTA a murder simulator and claimed the game was turning teenagers into maniacs. He latched onto every high-profile crime. If a teenager stole a car or caused a shooting, Thompson would immediately run to court, demanding hundreds of millions of dollars from Take-Two. For the brothers, it was immense pressure, but they managed to turn the lawsuits into brilliant free PR. They coldly ignored the attacks while brutally mocking the lawyer through crazy radio hosts in their games. Thompson was furious with impotence, but he didn't yet know that his lawsuits were just child's play. Right at that moment, an invisible time bomb was ticking away in the source code of the newly released San Andreas, one that was about to explode worldwide and nearly destroy the entire Rockstar empire. In the summer of 2005, with the release of GTA San Andreas on PC, the irreparable happened. A Dutch hacker dug into the source code and uncovered hidden, intimate files. Enthusiasts removed the digital lock and leaked an interactive minigame onto the web under the codename Hot Coffee. Why did the Housers add sex to the game in the first place? It's simple. They wanted to make the characters' relationships as realistic as possible. But right before release, Take-Two's lawyers panicked over age restrictions and forced the creators to cut those scenes. To avoid rewriting the engine just 2 weeks before shipping discs to factories, programmers simply locked the dangerous code away, naively hoping no one would ever find it. They were horribly wrong. The impact of the hackers' discovery resembled a nuclear explosion. The scandal instantly shattered the gaming industry's ceiling and reached a national scale. The studio's sworn enemy, attorney Jack Thompson, was triumphant. On every TV channel in the US, he declared that he finally had ironclad proof of the corruption of American children. The government joined the massive witch hunt. Senator Hillary Clinton demanded that the Federal Trade Commission launch an official investigation. Rockstar found itself in the crosshairs of intelligence agencies and authorities. The pressure was so colossal that the ESRB rating agency took an unprecedented step. They revoked the game's original rating and slapped San Andreas with the shameful AO stigma, adults only. For a console project, this was a death sentence. America's largest retail chains, including Walmart and Target, pulled the discs from their shelves that very day. Sales stopped instantly. Take-Two's stock plunged into the abyss, and direct financial losses from recalled shipments, lawsuits, and fines exceeded $50 million. Rockstar Games was on the brink of total bankruptcy. To save the company, the Hauser brothers had to take a humiliating step. Sam Hauser spent hours testifying under oath, while programmers frantically stamped out millions of new, clean discs. But the resolution to this years-long war turned out to be incredibly ironic. While Take-Two licked its wounds, releasing patches and rebuilding its reputation, their main pursuer destroyed himself. 3 years later, in September 2008, Jack Thompson became so consumed by his holy war that he completely crossed the line of the law. For erratic behavior in court, threatening opponents, and severe violations of professional ethics, the Florida Supreme Court permanently revoked his law license. The Hauser brothers outplayed their main enemy simply by outlasting him. Nevertheless, the hot coffee crisis forever changed Rockstar's DNA. Sam and Dan realized the era of carefree punk rebellion and secret jokes in the code was over. The gaming industry had become too massive and serious, and the studio had to grow up with it. The Hausers retreated into the deep shadows, refused interviews, and threw all their resources into creating their own revolutionary rage engine. They began work on a project that would forever abandon the cartoonish madness of previous installments in favor of gritty, dark, and mature realism. The name of that project was Grand Theft Auto 4. For a long time, the Japanese corporation Sony felt like an absolute monopolist. Thanks to the timed exclusivity of previous GTA installments on the PlayStation 2, their consoles sold in insane numbers, leaving Microsoft far behind. But by the mid-2000s, ahead of the Xbox 360 launch, the Americans decided to go all in. To break Sony's dominance, Microsoft executives made Take-Two an offer they couldn't refuse, writing a check for $50 million. This astronomical sum guaranteed two things. Microsoft secured exclusive rights to massive story expansions, and, most importantly, they stripped their competitor of its biggest trump card. Yes, PlayStation 3 owners weren't left out and still got the new GTA on global release day, but for Sony, it was a tectonic shift. They lost their monopoly status. The rules of the game had changed. On April 29, 2008, the world finally saw Grand Theft Auto 4 running on the company's new proprietary Rage engine. And it was a cultural shock on an entirely different level. Rockstar completely abandoned the cartoonish madness of previous years. Players were introduced to a gray, terrifyingly realistic Liberty City, and instead of a typical gangster, they played as a grim immigrant, Niko Bellic, suffering from severe PTSD after the Balkan War. Thanks to the integration of the Euphoria physics engine, the game delivered unprecedented realism. Cars deformed authentically from impacts, and people fell and reacted to injuries with accurate physics. With a budget exceeding $100 million, GTA 4 became the most expensive entertainment product of its time. And that risk paid off instantly. In its first 24 hours, the game sold 3.6 million copies and generated $310 million, surpassing the $500 million mark in its first week and securing its place in the Guinness Book of World Records. The game's success was immediately reflected on the market. Take-Two's stock rose by over 11%. This steady growth strengthened the company's position. Cementing this monumental success, Sam Hauser decided to perfect the project he saved back in 2002 when purchasing Angel Studios. The San Diego team was given the powerful Rage engine, a massive budget and one mission: to create the greatest Western in history. In May 2010, Red Dead Redemption was released. The story of John Marston, a former outlaw forced to hunt down his old gang members to save his family, became an absolute masterpiece. The massive risk on a dead Western genre paid off completely. In just its first 3 weeks, the game sold 5 million copies, generating around $300 million in revenue. For the launch of a brand new franchise in such an unpopular setting, these numbers were absolute fantasy. This game proved that Rockstar was no longer just a studio making games about stealing cars. They were the premier artists of the industry, capable of creating living, breathing worlds and mature, poignant dramas that left millions of players in tears at the finale. After the triumph of their Western, the Hauser brothers had no intention of slowing down. They continued to experiment between the boundaries between cinema and video games, and in 2011, the dark detective thriller L.A. Noire was released under their wing. This time, Rockstar deliberately took a massive financial risk for one key objective: technology. The Hausers were captivated by the revolutionary motion scan facial capture system, capable of translating the subtle emotions of real actors into the game. Acting as the publisher, the studio poured millions of dollars into testing this technology in practice. They needed to prove to the whole world that virtual characters could deliver drama on par with Hollywood stars. Ultimately, this invaluable experience with motion capture became a crucial technological lesson before creating their future masterpieces. Having closed the detective case in Los Angeles, the Hausers shifted their focus to their darkest and most wounded protagonist. The long-awaited release of Max Payne 3 took place on May 15, 2012. The game's budget swelled past an insane $100 million. At launch, it seemed like an unconditional success. In its very first week, Rockstar shipped 3 million copies to retailers. Players and critics were absolutely thrilled by the heavy, mature narrative and, without exaggeration, the finest shooting mechanics in the industry. However, by May 2013, total sales barely reached 4 million copies. For most studios on the planet, this would have been a triumph, but for Take-Two, having invested astronomical sums into production, those numbers were a financial disappointment. The aging Max simply could not replicate the billion-dollar records of GTA and Red Dead. Nevertheless, for the Hauser brothers, this game was never a mistake. By engineering the perfect, physically precise gunplay system in Max Payne 3, they secured the final, most critical building block for constructing their ultimate monster. Armed with the cutting-edge Rage engine, the flawless shooting physics of Max Payne, and the live directorial experience of L.A. Noire, the Hauser brothers gathered all their studios into one iron fist. It was time to unleash the ultimate monster. The development of Grand Theft Auto V was conducted in the strictest secrecy. The project's budget swelled to an astronomical $265 million. At the time, this made GTA V the most expensive entertainment product in human history, surpassing even the priciest Hollywood blockbusters like Pirates of the Caribbean or Avatar. But the Hausers were risking more than just money. Dan Hauser took an unprecedented creative leap. Instead of a single protagonist, he wrote a storyline for 3 completely different characters whose stories intertwine in real time. We are presented with a massive, living Los Santos, which in scale surpassed the maps of GTA 4, San Andreas, and Red Dead Redemption combined. In the fall of 2011, the first short trailer literally broke the internet, launching a 2-year wave of planetary hype. The entire entertainment industry held its breath, and then, on September 17, 2013, the game finally hit store shelves. What happened over the next 72 hours went down in business history books forever. In the very first 24 hours after release, Grand Theft Auto V brought publisher Take-Two a fantastic $800 million. But the counter didn't even think about stopping. In just 72 hours, sales smashed through the $1 billion mark. This was an absolute historical record for the entire entertainment industry. No Hollywood film, music album, or book in human history had ever earned that kind of money at that speed. Movie theaters were empty because the whole world was sitting at home exploring Los Santos. It seemed the Hauser brothers had reached the absolute peak, but the Hausers had saved their biggest trump card. 2 weeks later, on October 1, 2013, Rockstar launched GTA Online. The launch was catastrophic. Servers couldn't handle the load, crashing every minute, and players were losing their characters. The industry predicted a swift death for the multiplayer mode. However, Sam Hauser threw all his resources into saving the project. In a couple of years, GTA Online transformed from a simple add-on into a giant, standalone virtual platform with heists, personal businesses, and endless updates. And it was precisely this colossal success that forever changed the company's internal DNA. GTA Online turned into a cash cow, starting to bring Take-Two billions of dollars in microtransactions every single year. The Hauser brothers and the holdings management suddenly realized, why spend hundreds of millions of dollars and 5 years of your life developing new single-player games when a single online map could feed the entire corporation for decades? The famous finely tuned Rockstar Games assembly line, which used to release a masterpiece every year or two, slammed on the brakes. The studio plunged into a long, multi-year silence, throwing all its resources into supporting the online mode and preparing for their next, perhaps the most difficult project in their career, Red Dead Redemption 2. The billion-dollar revenues from GTA 5 went to management's heads, but along with the massive money, greed and division infiltrated Rockstar. The studio's golden era severely cracked in April 2016. Leslie Benzies, the permanent head of Rockstar North, the main producer of the GTA series, and a man the industry considered the third Hauser brother, left the company in a massive scandal. Benzies filed a gigantic $150 million lawsuit against Take-Two and the Hauser brothers. He claimed that while he was on a well-deserved sabbatical, Sam and Dan went behind his back to strip him of his rightful royalty payments. Worse yet, when the producer tried to return to his workplace, his electronic badge was simply deactivated at the office entrance. The legal war dragged on for 2 years and ended with a secret settlement, but the flawless image of a united team of rebels was destroyed forever. In the midst of these internal wars, Rockstar broke its silence and announced its next project. After an 8-year wait, the studio was preparing to release Red Dead Redemption 2. The Hausers wanted to create the most technologically advanced, detailed, and living open world in human history. But they had no idea what a terrible human cost it would demand. The main blow was taken by the younger brother. Dan Hauser, as the lead writer, shouldered an impossible workload. He personally wrote a monumental 2,000-page script just for the main storyline. And if you count all the side quests, random NPC dialogue, and choice variations, the stack of printed text stood over 8 feet tall. Dan literally locked himself within 4 walls, polishing every single line to perfection. Right before release, in October 2018, Dan Hauser gave a press interview where he carelessly boasted, "We were working 100-hour weeks this year to get everything done." These words triggered an avalanche of fury in the media. Former and current Rockstar employees began anonymously recounting horrors to journalists about the culture of severe overwork, the crunch. It turned out that people, following their boss's lead, literally lived in the offices, working for years without weekends, losing their health and destroying their families. As for those who broke under the pressure and quit a couple of months before release, management cynically cut them from the credits and stripped them of their bonuses. On October 26, 2018, Red Dead Redemption 2 finally hit the shelves. What players witnessed shocked the entire industry. Rockstar hadn't just crafted a game, they had built a breathtakingly alive, melancholic, and mesmerizing world of the Wild West. The incredible atmosphere of a fading cowboy era, thick rolling fogs, realistic wildlife behaviors, and campfires under starry skies drew players in for hundreds of hours. And Arthur Morgan's tragic story, personally penned by Dan Hauser, became the absolute gold standard of narrative drama, moving millions of gamers to tears.
This titanic effort paid off instantly. In its first 3 days alone, Red Dead Redemption 2 generated a staggering $725 million, marking the single biggest opening weekend in the history of the entertainment industry. The game skyrocketed to the top of every chart worldwide, with total sales soon eclipsing a cosmic 60 million copies.
Yet, for Rockstar itself, this was a Pyrrhic victory. A massive press scandal surrounding slave-like working conditions, fierce media backlash, and total, utter emotional burnout from writing thousands of pages of script took a devastating toll. Dan Houser had given this game everything he had, leaving absolutely nothing left. Immediately following the release, he went on an extended leave of absence, a hiatus from which he would never return to the company. In March 2020, the gaming industry was rocked by official news. After an extended leave, Dan Houser was permanently leaving Rockstar Games. The man who personally wrote the stories for GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, GTA 4, GTA 5, and both parts of Red Dead Redemption took his share of the capital and set sail on his own. 20 years of great brotherly co-authorship had come to an end. Dan decided to start from scratch. He founded the independent multimedia studio Absurd Ventures to create entirely new fictional universes for books, animation, and video games, but this time without the wild corporate pressure. For Rockstar itself, the departure of its chief creator became the ultimate test. The studio was left in the hands of the older brother, Sam Houser. He had to completely rebuild the company's culture, abandon exhausting crunches, fix the team atmosphere, and prove to the investors at Take-Two that even without Dan, the Rockstar brand was capable of creating masterpieces. While the whole world held its breath, Rockstar continued to live off the endless billion-dollar revenues from GTA Online. The studio plunged into the longest silence in its history. For 10 years, fans begged for a sequel. The internet was full of rumors, and in 2022, the company suffered the most massive hacker leak ever when early gameplay footage of the new game was dumped online. But the true magic of Rockstar hadn't disappeared anywhere. When Sam Houser finally released the first official trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 in December 2023, the internet literally broke. In just its first 24 hours, the video garnered over 90 million views, crushing all global YouTube records. Brothers Sam and Dan Houser started their journey in a modest London office, dodging project cancellations and fighting off scandalous lawsuits. They turned a childhood passion for video games into the most powerful entertainment empire on the planet. And even though Sam leads the company into the future alone today, the DNA of rebellion, style, and uncompromising quality laid down by the brothers has forever changed the world of entertainment. The story of Rockstar Games continues, and its greatest chapter is being written right now. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe. More incredible stories are coming.